Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Days. I'm Vice President for Creative Education at Brook Green Gardens. Welcome to our 2021 Black History Month program, Two Artists Talk, the art of Gullah Geechee culture. Today's program has been generously funded by Carolyn Riley in memory of Dick Riley. The featured Gullah Geechee presenters are fellow South Carolinians, visual artist Sonja Griffin Evans of Beaufort and Antoinette Ford of Mount Pleasant. Is art a significant part of Gullah Geechee culture? In what ways are Gullah Geechee culture important to Black history, to American history, and world history? What inspires our featured artists to create? These are topics they will be talking about today. They also will showcase art that's currently on display at Brook Green Gardens in the Black Southern Bells and the Grass in Motion exhibits of brilliant and evocative visual art and Sweetgrass basketry. The artists have pre-recorded their presentations and will appear live for a Q&A session following their presentation. During the program, please type in your questions in the Q&A and chat boxes at the bottom of your screen. As the PowerPoint slideshow opens, you'll find yourself stepping into a creative's world, listening in as Sonja Evans reflects on her work as she engages in a painting demonstration. Antoinette Ford will then talk about a non-traditional dimension of Sweetgrass basketry. So sit back, please, and enjoy.
Being born in Beaufort, South Carolina, has prepared me for a lot of life's challenges. Coming from the Gullah Geechee community, which was derived from when the Africans were brought to the Sea Islands of South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and actually stems as far north as Wilmington, North Carolina. Um, our ancestors, when they came here, when they left the shores of Africa and landed on the shores of America, they brought with them the spirit of freedom. And so that has been passed down, I believe, through generation and generation through the Gullah Geechee community. And when I create artwork, I try to create pieces that honor my ancestor because I believe the best way to honor our ancestors is to continue their works and to promote their works. And so through the artwork, not only do I, try to create beautiful artwork, but it has to be artwork that has a meaning. I try to create pieces that deposit something into the human spirit. So each piece that I create has a story or an inspirational quote, or it may even tell the actual history, accomplishments, contributions that Gullah Geechee people have contributed to not only the Low Country, but America. Um, in a lot of the pieces, you will see without faces. Without the face, it allows for you to use your imagination, kind of draws you into the painting. And when you do see faces on a lot of the pieces, those pieces, it reminds me of my grandmother. When my grandmother would, uh, and even my mother, when they would want you to fully understand what they were saying, they would look you directly in the eyes because they want you to know that what they are about to deposit into your spirit is important for you to know for the rest of your life and for you to survive. Another characteristics of some of my pieces, you will see long, tall people, long arms, long legs, marching, because our ancestors had to overcome obstacles by great lengths. And so I try to show that they have that ability to do that they had that ability. And so therefore that has been passed down into us. So when you view the Black Southern Belles exhibit, not only do you see the beauty of those women, but you will also see the strength and the determination. And in one particular piece, which is Begin, Believe, Become, it is a story of Elizabeth Evelyn Wright, who was the founder of Voorhees College. And so she wanted to educate African American youth so badly that she was willing to walk 5 to 20 miles a day for just mere pennies sometimes, so that she could start that school in order to start to educate African American youth. She understood that representation meant a lot. She understood that education was the key to becoming a successful person. She believed, well, I believe that she understood that our ancestors has given us, have left us a great inheritance.
The Gullah Dreamcatcher is half Native American, half Gullah. She's what I'd call a seer in her family and in her community. She's the person who can see things that's going to happen before they's due. And so she captures all the dreams of her family and her community, and she only allows for the good dreams to fall through. And so when I painted her, she looked at me and I looked at her, and she looked at me and I looked at her, and she started talking. And this is what she said. They say my great great grandmother had dreams that come true. Says that's where I gets it from, 'cause mine do too. Says I was born with a veil over my eyes and I can see things gonna happen before they's due. I even know when someone's coming in this world and when they is gonna die too. See, when I was a little girl, I was a little afraid to go to sleep at night 'cause I was fearing what I'd gonna see. And I used to see my ancestors and I thought they was coming to haunt me. But I knows now that they only come 'cause they love me, trying to warn me, bless me or protect me. I learnt myself how to read and write, so at morning's dawn I can sit here and write down my dreams. And last night I dreamed that old things was made all anew. And in that dream, someone came to me and gave me a message to give to you. They say, love one another and treat each other right, 'cause y'all is all kin, y'all's got the same heavenly Father. So hug one another and act right.
Hi, my name is Antoinette Ford, and I am a Sweetgrass basket weaver from Mount Pleasant. I'm 35 years old, and I began learning how to make sweetgrass baskets at the age of 4. So that's going on 32 years now. Um, so I pretty much grew up in a house where sweetgrass baskets were always made. Even in the community, in the Hamlet community, many families out there in the area, we pretty much make baskets. And I thought coming up that pretty much you know sweetgrass basket making was actually pretty common, but it's actually pretty much secluded uh, here in Mount Pleasant. It was back in 2009 actually when I decided that I wanted to move into sculpture work, and That's when I decided to do some research into what was considered to be fourth dimensional art, and that's what brought me to gestalt psychology, which focuses pretty much on seeing the shape as its entire as its uniform whole, as opposed to the individual parts that make up the piece. There are you know 6 to 7 primary principles that are used when creating the soul, and they are closure, symmetry, continuation, similarity, proximity, and also figure ground. Uh, Figure ground actually works a whole lot better when you're integrating the principle of, of closure when using the salt to create sculpture. So in this piece, I titled the shoulder spin, and in this piece, we can see the use of the continuation principle of the salt in this one. And in this piece, we see the principle of proximity that was being used here. And also we see more continuation. And actually, I think that was probably the primary principle that was used in this one. And then also symmetry, um, uh, symmetry, and also asymmetry can also work really well together in that principle as well. And here we have this basket that I call the sun handle. This handle was actually taught to me by my grandmother, and it starts off as a traditional twist handle, that she came up with. And back in the old days, when you would make the cross handle, you would have to split the grass and come back to it to make the handle symmetrical. So she came up with this idea that you could just use one continuous row, and as long as it's symmetrical on both sides, then it'll actually produce a cross handle. And so this is pretty much the modernized way to do a simplified cross handle. And of course, my work has been led by adult psychology in recent years. So you can see the principle of symmetry and also continuation also being in the production of this piece right here as well.
I have a question for Antwon. When you see sweetgrass growing in the marsh, what thoughts come to your mind?
Um, Actually, I never really saw too much, sweetgrass in the marsh because it don't really grow here in Mount Pleasant no more. But bulrush
Uh-huh.
is plentiful. No matter which marsh you go in, all over Charleston actually. You can always bump into bulrush. But what comes to mind when I see bulrush is I think of the Moses basket. How Moses was found in the bulrush, and I did see the painting um, a few seconds ago with Sonja. I had the bulrush basket, the Moses basket, and when the little girl was telling the story, she was telling the story holding the Moses basket. But yeah, definitely, that's what comes to mind. When I see bulrush, pretty
When you see bulrush. Um, let's see, there are some other questions also for you, Antwon. Robert Pollock wants to know, where do you sell your baskets?
much. Okay. Well, actually, I pretty much, I people contact me and I make orders, and I sell directly to them. Occasionally, I'll go to the city market, um, but I probably may not be able to head out there this year because I've got a pretty full schedule coming up, in preparation for next year. But my website is grassinmotion.com, and slowly but surely, I'm still going to be adding new baskets up there, and there's a certain style that's available, and it can be for sale, and I'm always willing to take orders too, and I can also be reached at antoineford@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you. Sonja, there is a comment from Ruth Bowling. She asks, have you been to Sapelo Island? She says that she went there years and years ago and became interested in the culture. She's an amateur artist and appreciates this program for your feelings, each of you, about your art. She finds it inspiring. Sonja, uh, once again, have you visited Sapelo Island? And tell me, when did you begin identifying yourself as an artist? I think you're on mute.
Well, got me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have not had the pleasure yet of visiting Sapelo Island. Of course, there are so many barrier islands in this area. I think it'll take me a lifetime to visit them all. Um, but I started painting actually in 2005, for therapy. Before then, I dibbled and dabbled, some decorative art, just around the house per se, but started professionally in 2005.
Okay. Are faceless paintings typical of all Gullah Geechee art?
You will see that without the faces in a lot of Gullah artisans' artwork. But I'm sure each artist may have a different reason why they create pieces without faces. For me, it's for the fact that, of course, I want the viewer to imagine themselves and draw the painting, to draw them closer into the painting, and give their own interpretation of it. And then also, when you see the pieces without the faces, it represents everyone. You see those black figures because it says if you mix all the colors in the world, you're going to get black. And so, therefore, it could be anybody. That situation could be anybody. And so, I try to capture the human spirit instead of just that physical man that you see on the outside.
Thank you. A question again, Antwon, from Robert Pollock. How long does it take you to create one of your large baskets or your basket
Oh,
sculptures, that is?
it could take anywhere from a few months to a few years.
Mm.
It uh, it kind of all depends on pretty much like if my environment is right, if I can just focus on that one piece, but sometimes I tend to work on maybe 2 to 3 pieces at a time. But I'm actually getting ready to work on 10 pieces
Oh, wow.
10
at
pieces.
one time.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, so I'm gonna have to put in some more hours, and days of the week, into getting the project done by the end of the year. But like I said, it could take anywhere from a few months, easily, but up to a few years. The longest time I've ever spent on a piece was 2 years, and that was my first sculpture. That was back in 2009. I started it in '09, and I was finished in 2011. And
Mm.
I didn't sell it. I didn't sell it until 2013. So when it left, the house, it just it felt like a huge part of me, was now gone because that was a pretty tough 2 years getting it done, and sometimes I would have to rotate it and, leave it at a facing image that was giving me, some problems. And, as I would walk by, maybe something would come to me like what to do next, at that particular angle. And it kind of went on like that, for years. So yeah, it could take a few years.
I had seen a question earlier, Antwon, asking what inspired you? What inspires you to create a sweetgrass sculpture?
Yeah. So, I pretty much have always, seen myself as an artist. I've always been, quite creative, and I took up, well, as I was learning to make sweetgrass baskets. I think at the time I realized that it was a nice challenge to learn, but I didn't realize that I would be taking the craft with me this far down in the life. But it was a nice challenge, to be able to do something that I know that other people, could do, older people could do, and pretty much that everyone would do. Growing up, not only was I learning the craft, but you're pretty much learning the industry, at the same time. You have people that come to the house, sometimes every other day, different suppliers. Some people are
Mhm.
coming to sell pine straw. Some people are coming to sell sweetgrass. Some people are coming to sell palm. And, that would go on, for years, through the 1990s, when we were definitely more, community based. And, also during that time too, that's when, Mount Pleasant was, it was, we were going through this major shift, because of all the development, and you couldn't really go anywhere to harvest your own materials, and so we relied so heavily on our suppliers during that time period. So like I said, it was all about learning the industry as well, subconsciously taking note of that. But um but how I got into sculpture work, it was that was back in 2009. I wanted to do something different, but I wasn't quite sure, what path I wanted to take, Sweetgrass down. So I just started doing a search on, sculpture work, and then that's when I bumped into, art that's like considered fourth dimensional, art that expresses a lot of movement, sculptures that express movement. And, like through that journey of discovery, that's when I had uh, bumped into Gestalt psychology. And so I really like the message that Gestalt psychology, was teaching, because it tells you about these seven primary principles,
Mhm.
that we can use to create a phi phenomenon, which is an illusion of movement. So I said, well, I think that'll be, a perfect path for me to follow. So I started doing some research on some of the Gestalt principles, and then I tried to interpret them the best way I could in sculpture form. And I do feel like once you master the primary principles of Gestalt psychology, then you can actually create a phi phenomenon. You can actually create an illusion of movement in something that's not moving at all.
Mhm.
And I think that would bring an artist closer to creating what would be considered real fourth dimensional art.
Okay, thank you. Sonja, you are asked to tell more about the paintings that you create. What materials, and is there a connection to the past? And while you're considering answering that one, another viewer wants you to speak about the painting directly behind you.
Oh, okay. Well, what I use, of course, is stories I believe that I heard from my grandmother and her friends. I use, of course, sometimes tin, wood. I love found objects. The canvases. I like to add texture to them to give them a three-dimensional look to them, and also it adds like what I call this hedge of protection around them, you know. And the piece that you see behind me, um, this is a part of the series. Well, it's three pieces, and it's a part of my Vote series. And the one that's directly behind me is dedicated to women's suffrage. And of course, the full painting says Votes for Women. And so, even in that journey, when women were fighting for their rights, it was even harder for Black women at that time as well. And so, as you'll see those two women, they're holding in their hand, "Ain't I a woman too?" You know. So each part, it goes from "We the People," and it has the dates, uh, the beginning of the Constitution of the United States, moves to women's suffrage, and then, of course, it ends with a quote by Congressman John Lewis that says, "The vote is the only nonviolent tool we have." So each piece that I have, like I said, I wanted to have a message. I wanted to inspire us to action. You know, and when I say action, is that we are benefactors of our ancestors. And it is up to us to be good stewards of what we have been given. So passing down my culture, telling our stories, they all honor my ancestors, and I incorporate that into my artwork.
Okay. What materials do you use or mediums do you paint with?
Oh, acrylics. I use acrylic paints, of course. And like I said, and of course, I have an ancient Chinese secret for my texture, so I don't share that one. But that's my Gullah mix there. And but mostly acrylics, and I use found objects. Yeah, I paint on found objects or canvas.
Ron,
Wendy Belzer, yes.
somebody had asked about freedom dance as well.
Yes, I was getting to that.
Okay.
We'll go to that now. Gail Oakes wants to know, she says her favorite painting is Freedom Dance and wants to know if there is a story behind it other than joy.
Freedom Dance, I actually created that piece for Mitchellville, dedication to Mitchellville, which I call the birthplace of African American freedom on Hilton Head Island. And it was in celebration of Juneteenth. And so I said, each one of those women represent a different personality, but there's seven different generations, and it represents, you know, because we have to support and encourage each other.
Okay. Each of you, Sonja and Antwon, while you are creating paintings or sculpture, what do you do while you're doing it? Do you sing? Do you listen to music? What type of music? Do you go in and out and play different games? What do you do?
I listen to music. I listen to
Anything in
music.
particular?
You know, I primarily listen to like old school R&B. Um, the era I'm pretty much fascinated with is from 1985 to like 1994. So I tend to listen to a lot of R&B music from that era, and I like to go into discovery, where I'll just find an artist that I already know, or even an artist that I don't know, and I'll just pick an album that I've hadn't, like listened to before, and just about discovering new songs and just adding them to the playlist, and then I just push play and just watch those videos move across the TV. But another thing that I'll do too is I like binge watching. Binge watching kind of keeps me, still.
Mhm.
So I definitely do a lot of binge watching. Mostly sci-fi lately. That's what it's been. Eh, uh, sometimes I'll binge watch, some drama, but I kind of like, the stories behind the sci-fi shows that I watch. Right now, I'm finishing the 3% as I'm working, so I'm about finished with that. And
Okay.
there's another show I'm thinking about starting. That's the something about Europa or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's also on Netflix. But yeah, I binge watch pretty heavy as I'm as I'm
Right.
working.
And Sonya?
Well, well, for me, when I start painting, and as the painting starts to, manifest or unveils itself, I start hearing the song that the painting is reflecting. So I literally will then play whatever song, may it be gospel, country and western, may it be jazz, a little bit of everything, may it be Gullah Gullah Island, who knows? Um, but but what I have to do when I'm painting, because I don't use a model or look at pictures, I literally become each character in that painting. So as I listen to that music and I go into that character and I create their body motion, then I paint them onto the canvas.
Very good. Very good. There's a question from Susan Lauer. Antwon, can you tell us more about sweetgrass and where it grows, where you get it? And she also wants to know, are we able to see Sonya's art online? So first, Antwon.
So sweetgrass, the sweetgrass that we see in most of the baskets today, that grass actually comes from Savannah, Georgia. Even maybe even that metro area, even that kind of pushes into South Carolina, um, out in that in those areas, that's pretty much where most of the sweetgrass comes from. We've been relying so heavily on that specific geographical area for so long. Um, there's really no telling what would happen, if sweetgrass does eventually, disappear. There have been a lot of talks about primarily using a bulrush, as the primary grass for coiling at some point. There have been other basket weavers that have even started using grade B and grade C. And those are the sweetgrass that has been planted, by the town of Mount Pleasant. And, they actually give us permission to pull, out of the Walmart that's out there in the parking lot where that Walmart is up there in North Mount Pleasant. But it's
Mhm.
not really it's not a desirable grade because it's not as flexible um, as the grade A, which grows naturally, in the marshes, But that those days, it's kind of unfortunate, that those days are gone, where we could just, find sweetgrass literally, in our backyards. But, thank God, the industry is still thriving and still continuing to survive.
Okay. And Sonia, the question was, is your art available or online?
Yes, I do have a website. It is www.sonyagriffinevans.com.
Thank you. Antwon, Ray Funny has asked, or he says that we are so enamored with your Sweetgrass designs. Have you been able to share your technique to the next generation?
No, I haven't yet. I have taught some young children, even some adults, how to make sweetgrass baskets. But as for teaching them how to make sculptures, no, I hadn't found anyone that's really had that interest yet. And besides, I feel like I'm on a journey, myself, because I'm doing like every piece is something that's completely different. So it's like every time I'm working, I'm always learning something new. I'm always having to uh, create the physics to kind of get the desired result that I'm trying to achieve, and that's and it's about taking notes and about realizing like what am I doing differently this time with this particular piece. Um, with new styles, bring about new techniques, and it's about kind of fusing what you know already to kind of push forward to to make it happen.
Okay, thank you. And for each of you, do you do commissioned pieces? And while you're thinking of the answer or answering, before you answer that, tell us what type of visual art, other than the medium you work with, inspires you. Do you do commission? Do you work on commission?
Yes, yes, I
Yeah,
do.
I
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And other than painting for Sonja and other than Sweetgrass basketry, what other visual art inspires you?
Well, for me, um, what inspires me more is just people. Not a particular art form, just people, and being able to capture people, look at their stories. I have to tell you, I'm nearsighted. So when growing up, I learned to be a people watcher. So from a distance, I could never ever make out their faces. Even now, I can't make out their faces. However, it taught me how to capture their body movements, to make um, to make that person be who they are just by the way they tilt their hip to the side or lean their head to the side or so for me it's just life in watching people.
Go ahead, Antoine.
um, I do make pieces for commission. I do. Generally, I do try to stick to the same medium. I always try to use um, sweetgrass and palmetto fronds. I only use pine needles just to kind of start off the base, the the very beginning of the piece, and then that's only if it's needed. But I the in more of the traditional baskets, you can definitely see how there's a lot of contrast, with using pine and with using bulrush. But if I am making a basket, then I will go back to try to bring those elements back into creation. But as for just pure sculpture form, I try to just stick with only sweetgrass, because sweetgrass is so flexible, and I guess I'm more concerned about 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 the shape of the piece as opposed to colored contrast.
Okay.
Mhm.
While we are going through this pandemic, festivals have become something that we haven't had for a while. But each of you, would you mind letting the guests know what Gullah Geechee festivals you find to be of importance? There's a Sweetgrass festival in Mount Pleasant.
Right. Yeah, the Sweetgrass Festival, that's definitely, awesome to have here, every year. I don't think they had it. I'm not too sure what happened last year. I know that they did reschedule
Right.
for that fall, but I didn't. Last year was just such a crazy year. I wasn't really
Generally,
involved
what
in it.
time of year is it held, and what can attendees, uh, what will they find by visiting a Sweetgrass Festival?
Mhm. So, if you ever come out to the Sweetgrass Festival, you'll see a lot of the vendors that are sweetgrass basket weavers. So you see a lot of different types of sweetgrass baskets, many different styles, many different shapes, baskets of all sorts of um, varied designs, and there's also food vendors there. There are some poets that come and they tell stories in Gullah Geechee. And there's also these kids. They come from Uganda, I believe, and they perform.
Mhm.
They sing and they dance, and they look really really good on stage too. And that's always captivating to see them.
So basketry, basket makers, there's vending, the vendors
It-
and performers. Sonja,
Mhm.
any
right.
particular Gullah Geechee festivals of note that you would like to make our viewers, our listeners aware of?
Well, in particular, I love Heritage Days at Penn Center on St. Helena Island. And of course, there you can see, they have Artist Row where you can see a lot of Gullah art forms, may it be sweetgrass basket, visual arts, jewelry, authors, quilt makers. So there's a little bit of everything. And of course, the food is fantastic. I mean, the moment you get, it's Martin Luther King Drive, the
Mhm.
moment you get on that highway, you see food going all the way down the strip, and lots of people. And of course, the performances and the education, just being on the grounds of Penn Center, which was, one of the first schools for African Americans in the South, so, and it's normally in November,
Yes, the
and
second weekend.
yeah, second weekend in November. And it's awesome. I love it. I love it. If you want a real experience, that's it.
Patricia Hicks DuPont asks, how can you preserve your well needed and greatly appreciated, uh, how can you preserve your art? I'm not sure. It's, and it says you are well needed and greatly appreciated by capturing raw footage, preserving your work for generations. Maybe that's a comment more than a question.
Mm.
Um, I think I want to thank all of the uh, participants. Thank you. Thank the Sonja and Antwon for the
Thank
information that you
Mm.
presented.
Yeah.
And I think
thank you.
a good send-off will be a comment that was shared by someone who had to leave early. She said, love not only Sonja's paintings, but the stories that you give as well. And Antwon's baskets, wow. Remember that both of these
Thank you.
exhibits are on display at Brook Green Gardens throughout March 31st. Let's see, I think I'm getting enough that there are 2 new messages, so I'm going to scroll down. Well, Victoria Small says this was outstanding, and Marie Cardini says just wonderful. Thank you so much. As each of you exit, a survey will come appear. Would you please complete that survey and submit it? And I thank you again. Enjoy Black History Month and the rest of today. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.